Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our LTSS webinar for June. We're so happy to have you here today. We're going to go ahead and just allow people to come into the event. So it takes a couple minutes for everybody to enter in, and welcome. We're so happy to see you on this another hot June day in Austin, Texas. So good morning. And I think we'll go ahead and start the live transcript. Let's see if I can get that going. So across the bottom, you'll see live transcripts. So if you're in the office or someplace else like that and you can't be listening to us, you'll see the live script come along the bottom. But welcome, my name is Cindy Cummings. I am a member of LT Senior Services. LT Senior Services is a nonprofit, and we are designated as a Lake Travis resource for aging adults and for their families. So we do lots of different things. One of the things that we like to do is educate, and each month we have a webinar. And this month you are here for senior employment opportunities, and we'll dive into that in a little bit. But we did want to tell you about next month's webinar. Next month's webinar is going to be, do you ever feel dizzy? Get answers and solutions. And we're super excited. This is our first time actually to have Melody Keith. I should know her intimately, as I went to physical therapy for her for my knee that was replaced, and she was awesome. But it's our first time to have her on our webinar, so we're really excited. She is a Lake Travis treasure. She has helped many people rehab, and she's coming to talk about a topic that we're super excited to hear about. And it's something that a lot of people have to deal with, and she has some solutions for us, so we're pretty excited about that. So we'll be sending out information later about how you can sign up to come to that event. Also, something I've forgotten to mention is all of our webinars are on YouTube. We are YouTube famous, whoop, whoop. So you can go to Lake Travis Senior Services, and we have a YouTube channel, and you can go there and you can see all of our webinars on there. And this webinar, for example, will be posted probably later on in the week. And we're excited to have all of those webinars on there. What's happening now is when people miss events, they say, hey, you know, how can I see this again? Or will you offer it again? And we just tell them to go to the YouTube channel. So if there's somebody in your life that you'd like for them to see this webinar, you can shoot them over that way too. But I don't know how many we have there, probably, I don't know, Natalie, maybe 20-ish. Natalie Harris is in the background. She's helping us out as always. Thank you, Natalie, for your help. And LT Senior Services, we're a member-based organization. We're a 501c3. We were founded many years ago, and we have about, I was told this morning and now I've forgotten. Natalie, how many members do we have?
35.
35. So we have 35 members, and the members are all people that work in the older adult area. So it's nonprofits, it is service providers, it's businesses, and we all collaborate and work together. It's great because it's a great resource for us. If somebody calls me and says, hey, I need to have in-home care, I've got some people who are part of our organization that I can refer them to. We also do other kinds of events. We have a shred day. We do a shred day normally 2 times a year, and we try to hold those during the week. The Boy Scouts in the area also have a shred day. We don't want to compete with them, and they're on Saturdays. So we figure that's a different clientele that goes on Saturday versus during the week. We will have one in October. We also have our Age Well Expo that's coming up. It is September 27th. We are super excited to have our big sponsor is going to be Alzheimer's Texas. They were a big sponsor last year too. And they're going to be talking about Alzheimer's support and services that could be provided. They're going to be one of our speakers. We have 4 other amazing speakers. We're just rounding everything out, and more information can be found at our website at ltseniorservices.org. So we're super excited about that. And we have other projects we want to work on. We need resources and money to do some of those, but one is to help with property tax exemptions, just making sure that everybody has a proper exemptions. And right now, gosh, with the property taxes have gone up so much, we really want to help support older adults be able to stay in their home longer. And if they can control some of their costs, one of the biggest costs that we have is your property taxes. We want to work with that group of people, make sure that they're getting the proper tax exemptions, that they can stay in their home longer. And that's one way that we do that. We had an event where we actually had people come and we helped them to determine if they were getting the proper exemptions for their homes. So we hope to do more of those events this year too. And I think that's about all. Oh, emergency preparedness is top of our list too. So those are just some of the other projects that we hope to be working on in 2022. If you are a nonprofit or a business and you'd like to be a part of our group, we would love for you to join us. And again, you can go to our website for more information. So without further ado, I'd like to have Nancy come back in. Nancy is our speaker for today. And I'm going to go ahead and read her bio while she comes back in. Let me see if I need to do anything.
Cindy, did we want to bring in the business members?
You are so right. Thank you so much. We do have some members of our community of the LT Senior Services that are here today. And Nancy, I'm going to have you go back out. Look at me. I always feel like a radio DJ. We're going to introduce some of our members first. Sorry about that. I'm going to stop her video. So as I said, we do have many partners and some of those partners are here today. We want to introduce them. And our first one is Jeremy Self. Jeremy, you are muted. Unmute.
Hey everyone.
Great to see you. What's going on with you this summer?
Hey, good morning. I'm just having a summer full of family activity and, with kids going to camp and all kind of fun stuff. So yeah, it's been a good start to the summer so far.
Well, Jeremy, you have been a great partner for us for our Shred Day by helping us get people there and getting the word out. But you're also a financial planner. So tell us a little bit more about you.
Yeah, so, I really help people with retirement income needs that they have and work hard to understand what's important to them, why that's important, and then help to build a personalized strategy to help them reach that goal that they have. And I serve in the Lakeway community, and so happy to be here.
Well, thank you. We appreciate your support in the past, and we'll see you in October in your parking lot for the Shred Day again.
Yeah, and that Shred Day is such a fun thing, and it helps, obviously privacy and confidentiality is such an important thing these days. And we want to make sure that those important documents get shredded so that no one, they don't fall into the hands of anyone that could misuse them. So.
Well, we had over 60 cars drive through, and it turns out to be a great fundraiser for us, but it's also kind of a friend raiser, and it's a fun day too. But we'll have businesses that come. We've had, we can actually shred x-rays, which I thought was interesting. So we've had physician offices. So it's for all ages, for all different groups, and it does definitely help a lot of different people. So again, we appreciate your support.
Thank you.
All right. What's funny is that if you talk to a young person about Shred Day, they're like, why would you have a Shred Day? Why do you have paper? So obviously they're not our age and they don't have 30 years of tax returns in boxes. So it definitely is kind of an age thing. But some businesses have to have those documents too. Is there anybody else from our group that would like to come in and say, hey?
I think Jeremy was the only one.
All right. We normally have the library. They normally come in. We love the library. They offer so many things for all different age groups. One of the favorite things that they do is they have a technology day where you can actually bring in any kind of technology that you have a problem with. So you physically bring it in with you. So hopefully it's on a desktop, an iPad or a phone or whatever. And they have volunteers there that will help you figure out how to do things. So it's so great. You don't have to wait for your kids to help you or the neighbor next door. But the library always has really great things going on. Okay, Nancy, without further ado, I'm going to have you come back in and let me go ahead and start reading your bio. Hey, Nancy. Hey. So Nancy, early in her career, she rode the emotional roller coaster of company layoffs and closings while working for newspapers and magazines. Then, after co-authoring 3 editions of How to Get a Job in Dallas-Fort Worth and Before You Say I Quit, she was drawn to the career development field. She took a leap of faith when she moved to Austin and completed a master's degree at the University of Texas to prepare for the most rewarding phase of her work life. For more than 2 decades, she has provided career coaching for thousands of people, many of whom were laid off and frustrated. Nancy has worked with the people in a variety of settings and currently is a trainer and career coach for Austin Community College's Strategies for Today's Job program. She will enthusiastically tell you about ACC's free continuing education course that prepares people for landing satisfying work. Nancy, we're so happy to have you here. We've learned and through other organizations about ACC and the great work that we're doing, and we just had to have you come today. So we're so happy to have you.
Well, Cindy, thank you so very much. And I appreciate what you and Natalie and all of you are doing for this great organization. This is so impressive. All of the services, I'm especially happy to discuss this topic. It's very near and dear to my heart. When I worked at Workforce Solutions in Round Rock, and we did a variety of job search topics, guess which one drew the largest crowd?
Which one?
The one that we're talking about today.
Excellent.
Yeah, because there's great interest, when you hit mid-career and beyond, there's what's going on? My job search is different than it was in my 20s and 30s and even sometimes 40s. And so we explored that just to empower people. I think more than anything this morning, I want to pass along information. I want you to feel free to ask questions as we go through, and we're going to go through 10 different tips, but a lot of it is going to be, if you're looking for work, how can you do it in a, faster, smarter, with less angst,
Who doesn't want all that? That's the way I want to do it.
Because you can do it, and I want you to hopefully to walk away and feel good about, well, I'm going to try this new approach, or I'm going to wake up in the morning and just face this in the most positive way possible. So
I think you're going to do a PowerPoint slide. So I'm going to go off screen while you're doing that. But I want to encourage participants in the webinar today. They can ask questions in the chat and the question answer area. I'm going to monitor those. So Nancy's going to stay focused on her slides, but I'll interject if it's appropriate to that time. If it's better to wait until after the presentation, then I'll ask the questions there. So as participants, if you'll go to Q&A or chat and write your questions in there, just be assured that I will ask them at the appropriate time. So Nancy, without further ado, take it away.
Okay, so I hope you see the first slide.
I do.
Good. So here is our topic. We're going to talk about, tips to approach job search in mid-career and beyond, especially because so many people are working more years than they may have ever planned. And we're going to start out with a very important one, which I think is make it or break it. And I know this is a little bold in your face to say, adjust your stinking thinking. But when I heard that approach, I know it is so important to really be honest about your mindset when you're looking for work, because I have noticed for the many years that I have been a career coach that I can almost tell when I first meet somebody in the first 5 minutes, are they going to be successful? And is it going to be a fairly short process to find the next job or not? And it was really wonderful. Years ago, I ran into a book called Don't Stop the Career Clock by Dr. Helen Harkness, who lives in Garland outside of Dallas. And she explored this 20 plus years ago. And one thing that she said that really stuck with me is that a lot of us have to really not think about whatever age we thought we were going to retire, because most of us, if we're lucky enough, are in better health. Some of us may want to continue working financially, or just because, and I know in my case, I love what I do. So, we're going to continue working longer. And as a result, looking for a job in, at an age when some of us didn't expect to be working can be different. So what Dr. Harkness suggested is, because things have changed, think of what you would be doing if you were 20 years younger. And I love that, because years ago, I've decided I'm never going to tell people when they ask, well, how old are you on this birthday? Well, I just always lied, to be honest, and convinced my younger sisters that I was younger than them. And people just got used to me being very evasive. And I also just let go of whatever chronological age and just thought, physical age, and hopefully most days, my physical age is younger. Not always, but some, most of the time. And I just kind of approach work in a very different way. Really trying to look at things positively. I remember as a teenager, I read The Power of Positive Thinking, and just really embrace the idea that you get up in the morning and choose how you're going to face things. And I know that, people in their job search, when they can approach it with the, sure, it's going to be difficult. I'm not a Pollyanna, I can show you, some of the bruises and talk about, well, this happened and that happened. But, I don't ever, really focus on that. I just think of, what can I do to forge ahead? There was a wonderful recruiter from Peak Performers, that's a nonprofit that finds positions for mainly for state government work, which is actually a wonderful place to apply to get your foot in the door. And this recruiter met with a group with our 50 and older session that we did. And she said, and I agreed, she said, I looked into the audience and I could just tell, almost without anybody saying anything, who was going to be successful and who wouldn't. So, I don't know, what some of you do to turn around some of the negative self-talk or anything that you do that brings yourself down. I think all of us have an individual way to approach this. So if you feel yourself sinking, if you're in a job search that you think, oh, this is going on much longer than I ever expected, I encourage you to try a number of things. Whether it's positive affirmations. I've worked with people on building vision boards, taking, taking picture images from magazines, or, drawing or doing something to say, let's project what you want in the future. That helps some people. They would put their vision board and look at that first thing in the morning. My one personal thing that I do is I wake up in the morning, and instead of thinking, oh no, I don't want to get up at 6 o'clock. Instead, I wake up, I say a prayer of gratitude and think initially of all the many things I have to be thankful for. And that sets the tone for the day. If I'm around people who are the energy vampires, the ones that are kind of like negative, I will kind of find ways to excuse myself. I might try to adjust their negative comments, but then if I realize, no, this is kind of, not going anywhere, I think we have to remove ourselves and try to see what we can do personally, to stay in that positive mindset. I don't know in chat, do you have any particular thing that you do to have a, keep it more positive? Chase those little thoughts that come into your head that are self-defeating. Chase them away.
I'm looking in the question answer and chat and I don't see any replies.
Okay. But I hope that if you try some of these, if you if you catch yourself on kind of a difficult day. The next thing is, it's wonderful to be in a job market that is, with lower unemployment, more opportunities than was the case, let's say, 5 years ago. The Austin area in particular, 2.7% unemployment in Austin, 3.5% in Texas. So, times are better, and I sure have seen the ups and downs of the job market. And I know sometimes you can go, oh, recession's coming, and what's that going to mean? But I mean, I think take advantage of the opportunities that are out there now, which is a good thing to kind of keep building the momentum. The next thing, and this is really important, is have a target job that for you is realistic. This is where I know it takes the initial kind of exploration. Do I want to continue doing what I've done in the past? Do I want to do something different? Would I be able to get a job at the same level? Some people, it's, oh, I'm not going to find anything and I'm going to be the Walmart greeter. I've heard that over and over again, and I don't even know how many Walmart greeters are around these days, but there are times where people will aim too low and then be upset that they're, say, yeah, I know I'm overqualified, but who else is going to hire, negative. Or they think, well, I will just transfer to another company at the same level. But it's sometimes difficult if you've been in a management level position to step across into an organization where they say, well, you're not familiar with how we do things, and it is different from your last job. And so you have to look at, okay, where can I get in? I want to clearly define what I want to do. I think it really helps to have your wish list of organizations that hire a diverse group of people, try to find out, diversity of ages, of, things that you say, yeah, I know I could fit in, and I want to start out at a level that, it will be a foothold. And many times, and this happens to people younger than 50, sometimes you end up, I sure did, when I would get laid off or a company would close, I would have to take a step backwards to get a foothold to move up. I know when I, resigned from a job that I'd been at for 22 years, because I went through a reorganization and everybody was going to be asked to take starting pay. And I thought, no, thank you. I resigned, and then I looked around and I looked at my wish list, and ACC had always been at the top of my list because I'm such a believer in how ACC truly is for everybody. And so, I looked at, could I, get a job at the same level? I'm not so sure, but I found a foothold worked in one job that I really liked, a little different from what I've been doing. And then lo and behold, the strategies for today's jobs had an opening that was perfect for me. And, so you do that, knowing that, it was realistic. I could use the skills. I could clearly articulate, what I wanted. And we'll talk more about that. Then here is something that I don't know how many of you are aware of, a real increase since COVID of people who have the option to still work at home. I did that for almost 2 years, which was, very interesting. I had to become a lot more tech savvy, but I somehow survived. And, for some employers, they're allowing people to continue working remotely. Or in some cases, they may just have the hybrid work where they show up at the office once or twice a week and can work from home the rest of the time. The other thing that helps, some of us may be able to work part-time, and that may be, 20 hours a week. For some people say, that's perfect. That still gives me, work that I enjoy, and then I have more time, for other activities. So, think broadly about the different ways that people work. I know right now I have 2 part-time jobs, it's a perfect pairing. Both of them, I work with high school students for part of the week, and we work on choosing a major in colleges that would have wonderful programs for them. And then ACC is great. I work with people of all ages. So, but the nice thing about it is, you sometimes have to not think of the traditional way that we once worked, and over time, they say 25% of the professional jobs in North America will be remote work. And I have read articles that brings more opportunities to people who are 50 plus. They have a great work ethic. They can work and be very productive without somebody looking over their shoulder, because it's just kind of in our DNA to work hard and do what needs to be done, and then be able to kind of have, in some ways, a less stressful way of working. So consider that as an option. And a big one, and I bring up sharpen your skills, because I know employers have said, well, one drawback of hiring somebody who is mid-career and older is they may not be as tech savvy as somebody younger. And in my case, I go, yeah, guilty as charged. But I'm certainly willing and have done this, where you go, let me look at the job requirements and see what do I need to learn, and let me try to even learn as much of that as I can, as part of my job search. So if I need to brush up on Excel or talk to somebody about whatever platform or system, or just really try to learn whatever I can. And now that we have the option of going online and picking up some of this for free or for a nominal cost, or finding resources out in the community where we can sharpen our skills to be employable. And then I think it's important in a job interview to mention, because this would be something, let me overcome any concern that an employer would have about not knowing something that is going to be important. And, if you don't think that an employer would be impressed if you say, part of my job search has been learning X, Y, and Z, so, consider that. The next tip, and this is why I'm, so glad that you're part of this nonprofit, and, chances are 70% of you will find your next job because you have talked to somebody who provided a tip. Maybe they told you about a job that wasn't posted online, or said, even if it was posted online, well, after you apply the traditional way, well, here's somebody you can talk to. Maybe they can give you some advice about who to follow up with, or things that could be important. So, the whole idea of networking, 70% of jobs nowadays are people, are asked what made the biggest difference. Well, it was somebody I talked to. I had this conversation, mentioned what I was looking for. They offered some tips. I've, followed that, and voila. Have any of you ever found a job because you have talked to somebody and, you knew that made the difference? It wasn't that, internet lead on that the job posting you saw on Indeed. It was a human being that made the biggest difference. So Cindy, you can tell me if anybody had that experience.
I'm monitoring it. I don't see any in there, but I do know personally of some people that have done it that way. So, but I'm not seeing anybody in here, but we did have a comment. Maybe I could interject this now. And Jeremy Self was saying, yes, I became an advisor because of a friend. And I think that's oftentimes we have friends who see what we do and they see how much we love it and how much fun we're having. And so they ask more questions and they say that looks like the career for me. So, but we did have this question. JS101.org is based in Houston, and they offer excellent online search skills classes, and those classes are free. So, and that's from Sharon. So JS101.org, based in Houston. So another resource maybe for you to check out. But Sharon, thank you for sharing that comment. We appreciate it.
That's great. Yeah, I wrote that down because I'm going to look at that too. And free is good. And
free is awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad that they offer that, And this is something, again, put yourself in the position to talk to as many people as you can, because it's often the person that you may not even expect to say, oh, well, I know somebody who knows somebody who's hiring, and here's what you can do. I mean, I can think, most of my jobs came about because of, not because I knew, somebody in a higher level position, but it was just somebody I, had casually saw, or somebody who knew, what I was looking for, and said, oh, this job, is going to be listed later on a site, but, why don't you get at the head of the line and talk to, the hiring manager. So anyway, so I hope that you will do that. You see on the slide that, there are many different groups that you can join. I know some there are more activities that you can get involved with, but I'm going to put a plug in for the two job clubs in our area, the Job Seekers Network, that at Hill Country Bible Church near Lakeline, is a wonderful group that meets on Monday. And the Launchpad Job Club is kind of the granddaddy of the job clubs in the area, and they meet on Friday. And they both have virtual meetings. That's, in some ways, COVID has been helpful for us to be able to have this online access and learn that way. But they also have in person. And I encourage you, if you, we can take precautions and show up, and some places I still wear my mask but still meet people face to face, and ask people that you meet at these meetings where they often have really good speakers and you learn something, and then there's time to meet others. And just, do you start the conversation with, and what kind of work are you looking for? Break the ice. And then you exchange information. And, I've just seen wonderful things happen at these particular job clubs. Okay. Another tip is to look at finding work as a full-time job. However, I'm going to go easy on everybody and say, yeah, you can do it probably in 30 hours. Maybe you can give yourself a break and not do 40, but 30 quality, hours of spending, time, and just really, going about it where you define what's the most important thing to do. If I'm going to have a 70% chance of finding work, talking to people, meeting people, then, in doing that, I'm gonna, one thing I'll encourage you to do is to set up what we call informational interviews. And what it is, and I sure did this when I thought about making a career change, is, I would ask somebody, well, who would be a good career coach or career counselor to talk to? And they would recommend somebody. And I either spoke with them in person if possible, or by phone if that was preferable, and, found out as much as I could, found out what I could do to get the training, how, and I tested the waters for a while, worked with a career counselor doing different things that I could do for her before I had the credentials, just to go about it. And Richard Bowles, who wrote the most popular, job search book around, it's called The Job Seeker's Bible, What Color Is Your Parachute? This wonderful man has passed on, but it is, the book is, still published every year with wonderful tips. And one of them is to set up these meetings with people, or informational interviews, as it is formally known. And you can, learn so much when you ask the right questions, get advice that you're not going to find online. And when they, tried to see, well, how effective are these? They found that out of 12 of these meetings, people landed a job after 12. It would take some people who didn't, use informational interviews, submitting 200 resumes or filling out applications before they landed a job. So given those odds, it would be good as part of your job search to find people, to have whatever list of appropriate questions that you would ask. And you don't ask them, do you have a job? But you ask about, here are 10 companies on my wish list, and I'm, trying to broaden my search. Can you help me find other places, because I know 70%, may not even post their openings online. And I'm trying to think of a way, and sometimes people get in through, taking a contract, temporary position. They just do all sorts of things. But, have your, questions ready to learn everything that you can. And then you can go about your job search in a more informed way, devoting, the sufficient time to other things, to, set a goal on Monday morning saying, I hope to identify, say, 3 or so really good job leads and then I'll follow up and stay organized so you can stay on top of everything. Before long, you'll start hearing from employers, spend sufficient time for the job interview preparation, salary negotiation, doing all of that is so much better. And I know it takes a certain amount of discipline to do that. And you sometimes have to say no, when, friends or family say, you're not working, could you do this for me? And you have to remind them, well, maybe in, when I'm not working on my job search, I can. Okay, so then,
We did have a question. Could you name the 2 job clubs again? And I'll have Natalie type them in there. So they
certainly.
were, what were they again?
The Launchpad Job Club. And I think their website is just launchpadjobclub.org. And then the Job Seekers Network. And they have a different, I should maybe have put their website, because it's like JSN something, and it's nonprofit.org, but just Google Job Seekers Network Austin and you'll find it.
Great. We'll try to find that and we'll put that in the chat for everybody.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. So then I'm going to mention resumes, because the way we go about resumes today is very different, from years ago, where, when I would go into a new job search, I would just pull up, my old resume, dust it off, add the last job, and then that version of my resume would be, sent out in that, same way everywhere. Well, that worked then, but now things are different, especially if you are applying for a job that is online, or if it's at a larger company and they can't employ enough people to, look over every resume. We assume that they are, human being is initially going to look at our resume. But what happens is you send in your resume and an applicant tracking system will scan it for keywords. So what that means is it's more important than ever to, when you apply for a job, to say, okay, for this job, I'm going to customize it. I take a job description, I highlight what I will, make an educated guess on what would be those skill words in the qualifications, what would be real key. And I use the very same word that's on the job description to describe something that, now is planted in my resume. And it's not phony, it's just, the way that you are more likely then to have a resume that is scored high enough so it then can be passed on to a human being who will go, well, of course, I want to interview this person. They've made it so easy. You know, you've connected the dots for them. You've had a strong section at the very top that addresses the key specific qualifications, and where you look well qualified, not overqualified. You know, you've customized, and you know, I know this sounds like a lot of work. However, after a while, you understand, yeah, you know, I'm getting the hang of it. You know, most of the changes will be at the top in the qualification summary, and maybe a few words are changed here and there, but you have something that then makes it so easy to understand why, yes, you know, you make the cut for a job interview. Now, what can help you is this job scan that you will see on the screen. This jobscan.co is, you know, here to help people see what terms need to be included on the resume. And you can use this free site to copy and paste the job description, the important sections of that describe the qualifications. And then when you think you have your resume all set up with the keywords, you copy and paste that. And this site will run a quick scan, and it will give you a score. And you try to have a score, you hope, that will be, they say 80, you know, is a good score. I'd say 60 is really good to, and they'll, you know, mention, well, here are the number of times in the job description a certain word is mentioned and that sort of thing. But you can look and you can overrule something that you know, oh, that's not important. But there may be something that you go, oh, I forgot to put that. And yes, that is something I know. Or I used a different word for that. I need to use the employer's keyword. And so you know, put in that keyword, and then you run your scan again and you go, now I've got it. You know, this will really help a lot. And, you know, I think you know, even though it takes time initially, it will reduce you know, the number of weeks, months looking for work, because you'll have more job interviews, you know, when somebody sees, you know, how well you've crafted your resume. Okay, the next tip, and this is really important about, you know, by doing all of these things, you'll have more job interviews, and you get ready for job interviews, which I know a lot of people face that with, you know, too much fear and nervousness and all of that. But I encourage you to do a lot of things where you go in well prepared, positive mindset. And, you know, I've heard, you know, some of the, you know, I'll call them mature job seekers who, you know, on top of not liking job interviews any more than they'd want to go in for a root canal, you know, their biggest complaint is, you know, these younger interviewers, I can see it in their face when I walk in that they're not going to, you know, negative, 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 you know, but turn it around. I always face, you know, my job interviews where, of course, most people were younger, and I thought, I'm relating professionally to somebody who is at the level where they have obviously done well, and I'm going to, you know, purposefully not make any age-related comments. So I put distance between myself and the interviewer. So I think that is really, really important, because some people just innocently say things that they really shouldn't, or I can recall, one man who in his neighborhood, he was surrounded by people who worked at Dell. And when he was laid off, he thought, well, sure, I'm just going to fixate on Dell. And he went to a number of job fairs, and he came back after one and told me, he said, well, I told that interviewer that I'm really great at sales. Don't know a lot about technology because I haven't worked in high tech before, but that's okay. And he said also, at my last job, I had the kind of schedule, it was more flexible, and I really like that. And that's what I need now, because I need time to on Saturdays to spend because that's the day I spend with my grandson. I'm also going to need some time off from work for doctor's appointments because I was in a very bad car accident and I'm recovering from that mostly. So anyway, needless to say, he did not get a job offer. So he went to another job fair where Dell was there. And somehow he just felt like, he was being disrespected. And this time he told the recruiter, he said, well, I can just see it in your eyes. You're not going to hire me, and it's all because of my age. Well, anyway, nothing happened there. And so he, kind of turned things around finally when he said, I'm just going to, go out and I'm going to look at companies. I think I'll try to work within a 10-mile radius of my home. But I'm good at sales. So I'll just go out and at small businesses, I'm going to drop off my resume, let them know what I can do for them. He made his sales calls. He knew how to do that. And guess what? He found a great job at a small company and he did well. So, and I'm sure he didn't say those things that he told the Dell recruiters. But you can, see what, I mean about, some people, whether he was conscious of some of the, comments that he made. You have to, in an interview, go into it with, I'm going to, mention what reinforces my qualifications. I don't want to be perceived as overqualified because maybe I've done some higher level things. I never talked about management level experience unless I was applying for a management position. I, would address, what could I contribute to this particular position, where I'm applying, and, not make any, again, age related, or if they ask about technical skills, again, not say, yeah, I'm still working at it. You have to remember that I started out on a manual typewriter, which was true, but you don't say things like that. I mean, that would be pretty crazy. Anyway, so then last but not least is just be realistic about the salary, because this is where it trips up some people where they think, well, at my last job, I earned X amount. So surely I can, generate that the same. And I understand lifestyle and, you want to earn as, what would be an appropriate salary. What happens though is for many people of all ages, you sometimes end up, depending on your occupation, this is less likely for people in the high-tech world and some sales jobs and some other kinds of work. But for some of us, I know it's a matter of, yeah, I may have to take a little less salary to get in, because in doing salary surveys, and this is something that's very important nowadays, where we can go to Indeed or Glassdoor or salary.com or ask people to say, what would be a realistic salary range for this job that I'm applying for? And then, have that in mind when, the salary is offered, and be ready to negotiate. So that way, if the salary offer is a bit low and you think, I thought this particular company might be able to pay less, know that you can negotiate at times, and with success in some situations, and others, the first offer may be the best offer. And there you have the choice of either saying, and I did this for one job. I said, well, would you consider me for an evaluation after 3 months? And I'd like to prove to you that I'm worth this amount. And they said, sure. And then they said, oh yeah, and we forgot, we have profit sharing as well. Well, I had never worked for a company that had profit sharing, and lo and behold, that more than made up for what I thought was a little low on the salary end. Still had the 3-month review. So know that you can do that sort of thing. But if I had dug my heels in and just said, well, if you're not going to pay me a couple of $1,000s more a year, forget it. I would have lost out on what actually turned out to be a very decent job. So, be careful about salary, because companies aren't going to budget to pay necessarily what you used to, make at times. I know there was an AARP found that half of the people 45 to 64 who were unemployed during the past year, are making less. I mean, that's just the reality that happens when you start over again in a new job. But, you get in, you catch up, and hopefully, keep up with the cost of living. So I have reached the end of the tips. And then I'm going to just close with, for more information, I'm lucky enough to be part of the Strategies for Today's Jobs program at Austin Community College, part of our career services. And what we do is offer free, put emphasis on free, 4-week continuing education courses. And then with that comes coaching sessions. And those coaching sessions, once you've been in one of the courses, you can come back whenever you want. And some people will get a job, something happens a couple of years later, they'll say, oh, well, back in, 2019, I was in one of your courses, and so sign me up for an individual coaching appointment. I mean, it's really pretty awesome that people have a chance to do this. I'm going to leave my email in case you would like more information. Our next course is coming up soon on July. It starts July 11th. You can go to the ACC website, and in the little search, just search for Strategies for Today's Jobs. And then you'll see how you can sign up, for the course. And the nice thing about it is we've decided to offer it both in person, because I love to work, with, people, face to face. But then we're also knowing that it'll be easier for some folks to, take it as an online. So we'll have a hybrid course. So you can choose, to either come to the Highland campus, used to be the old Highland Mall. And you know, just astounded what a great job they did transforming it into this massive campus. You know, or you can just, you know, sign up to, you know, meet with us virtually. So with that, let me find out if y'all have questions or what else would you
do.
like to know?
We do have a couple questions. Will you make your slide go away? Go ahead and,
Sure.
okay, great. So we do have a question. One of the questions is, I've been retired for 6 years, taking care of a sick husband, and I need to work part-time. What would her first steps be?
Yeah, I think the first step is, you know, to find the part-time job that you want, you know, in the occupation and the industry. And do you want something, you know, can you do something similar to what you might have done before retirement? It's interesting. A lot of people, for different reasons, are coming out of what they thought would be kind of the final phase, and they are going back to work. So don't feel like you're doing anything unusual, but just determine your focus initially and start letting people know in a way that they understand. And this is where I run into some people who will start talking about their job search, and they'll say, well, you know, I want something that's creative, and yeah, I like to use the computer. And let me tell you about the 3 or 4 other kinds of work that I've done, but I don't want to do that anymore. I just want to do something else, you know. And the conversation goes nowhere in a way, as far as what can that person offer, you know. They walk away, I'm not quite sure what that person wants. So, yeah, so help people understand what you want. And then, yeah, yes, work with anybody to just gear up for the job search in the very best way possible. And I wish you great success.
Thank you. Okay, we've got some more questions for you. How do I network for job opportunities when I don't know a lot of people who are hiring?
Yeah, and I've heard this a lot, you know, especially if somebody's kind of relocated to an area. What you have to think, though, is everybody you meet is a potential source of information.
Mhm.
And try to put yourself in a position of meeting more people. You know, what could you know, what meetup group, where can you go to meet people? And what can you do to, you know, have your, we call them the elevator speeches, where you clearly talk about what you want in a brief way. And so that, you know, you don't have to know hiring managers or people who are hiring. It's just a matter of knowing how to talk about it. I once was in a very long line, you know, with other procrastinators, mailing our Christmas boxes at the post office. And as we were standing there, there was a woman who thought, I've got a captive audience. And I just, in my mind, I was going, good for her, because she was talking to everybody that around her about her job search. You know, they couldn't go away. They had to mail their packages, you
Mhm.
know, and, you know, who would think about doing that? I've known somebody who got a job because she went to her favorite HEB checker and was talking, you know, a little about, you know, how are you doing? Oh, fine. I'm still in my job search. I'm looking for a job as a speechwriter, blah, blah. And the guy who was bagging her groceries said, hey, you know, why don't you let me carry your groceries out? I heard that you're looking for a job as a speechwriter. My dad is trying to hire a speechwriter.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I
Who
mean, you
would
really
think?
do never know. You never know.
No, you really don't.
Well, what happens when job opportunities in my former career are limited or I have physical limitations? So what are some of your options?
Yeah, I mean, that is to, I think, just take a cold, hard look at is there any way I can redesign what work I can do that may be similar? Or can I look at skills that transfer into something else? All of us have, certain skill sets. And I know if I lost, hopefully it doesn't happen, but I've been through the ups and downs. If something happened that our program wasn't funded, I'd go, okay, I'm going to use the skills of customer service, use that forever. I'll try to use a few others. Where can I go and take, pack up those skills in a suitcase and take them elsewhere? So there's where, try to look at how you can do that. I think what is challenging for a lot of people, they may not want to make a dramatic career change. Hopefully you won't have to, if you don't want to do that, you won't have to do it, but there's probably ways that you can, use your skills, look for places that will appreciate you. They say often smaller businesses, need, what I call mature workers who have a diverse skill set and good work ethic, nonprofits, government organizations. So you look at all the places where, there are open doors.
Great. How do I respond when an employer says I'm overqualified for a position?
Yeah. And I don't know if any of you have ever heard that, because I know sometimes, that comes up and interviewers will use that. And some people just feel very insulted. And yeah, it's not real appropriate, but maybe the employer was doing that just to see how the person would respond.
Oh,
So with that, yeah. But what I would do, no matter what, I mean, you think, I would have actually, I think I'm well qualified. And the reason I applied for this work is because I thought I would be a good fit for X, Y, and Z. So you have a way to counter, whatever they're saying, instead of saying, oh yeah, you're probably right. No, you want to reinforce, now in your words, specific reasons that you're qualified and say it with a smile on your face, and go from there.
so I think you thought I said underqualified, but I had asked you if somebody says you're overqualified.
Well, yeah, to say you're overqualified.
Yeah, where they're like,
I
you,
said,
yeah.
yeah, but it's like, well, I don't feel like I'm it's like, yes, I used to work in management. I think I'm well qualified to do this job, even though it's not management, it's what I want to do now. And
Okay.
here's why. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was
That's probably
trying
good
to
to
say.
hear it from both ways, because you
I mean, I
probably.
was actually, the first was, I thought it was supposed to be it's overqualified, and I'm well qualified. I'm still well qualified no matter what, because I can do this. I want to do this. I applied for this job, because it just seems like such a wonderful way for me to do X, Y, and Z. And that's what I enjoy doing now.
Great.
Yeah.
What do I say if an employer asks me when I will retire? And I'd like to do that in a couple of years. First off, is that an okay question to ask an employer to ask?
Probably not, but
Yeah.
I sure wouldn't ask somebody that. But again, these are all questions that people have told me that they have been asked.
Yeah.
And the thing about it, we don't know for sure. Are we going to want to retire in a couple of years? We may think we do. We go, when I hit this birthday, that's it. I'm packing it in. But no, I mean, something may happen. You may work at that organization, love it. Inflate, I hate to say it, but with the economy, you may say, yeah, maybe it would be nice to still, have a salary. So things can happen. So, you don't want to be dishonest, but, what I think would be, you think what would be a nice, truthful answer and say, I want to continue working, for a job like this that's meaningful, something that's in my field. And I want to be one of your most productive workers, because I know a lot of people who are working, many years beyond traditional retirement age. I'm trying to think of a spin where you're being careful and,
Yeah.
but you honestly may change your mind. So you don't want to tell, and this one man who wasn't getting any job offers said he was just telling everybody that, oh, I'm going to leave in a couple of years. Well, nobody would hire him and he couldn't figure out why.
Mhm.
So anyway.
Well, you could think about that a couple different ways, because it could be life situations. You could divorce, or you could get married, or you could have no, I guess you wouldn't have a child, but maybe you would because if you're close to retirement. But there's lots of different reasons why you might, and there could be some kind of physical thing that happens too that makes it be that you can't continue to work. So I guess it's, to the best of your knowledge today, that's the way you feel, and that might be a way that you would present that too. How can I relate to a younger interviewer who seems biased against someone my age? Oof.
Yeah, and you have to be careful that, is that your perception or is that the reality? And it may be the reality, if they are just being kind of disrespectful or what, or just do your best to make a connection with a professional and don't fixate on their age, or don't think like, oh, this person's young enough to be my son or daughter. No, I mean, you do the best you can, but if they somehow you walk away and you just think, I'm not so sure, is that a place where you want to work? I mean, some of it is you're there during an interview to get a sense of, I want to find out if I truly feel comfortable in this work environment and with the people, and what their mission is and all of those things. And of course, the interviewer, may not represent the majority, but it gives you sometimes a bit of a clue. And I think you just do the best job that you can, and don't, know if they don't, my attitude, if they don't have the good sense to hire me, then, that's too bad. I'll find a better place.
And I think too, when you go in for an interview, you might, I don't want to say judging, but you're kind of judging that person too. So maybe not be so judgmental, because you don't know their story, just like they don't know your story. So just come with a more open mind, I guess, instead of immediately going to, oh, they're young, so they're going to treat me poorly, or yeah. Well, I am looking to see if we have any other questions. I don't see any. I think we're going to wrap it up. This has been extremely informative, and we're so happy to get the word out about the free program that ACC offers. And we are going to follow up in an email and provide all the slides that you provided for us today. And so it'll have the information about how to learn more about the hybrid program that's going to be coming up that people can sign up for.
Well, and thank you very, very much for an opportunity to join you today. This is really a great group. I'm glad that you have, started this. You have so many wonderful programs planned for the coming months. So,
well, thank you.
This is really great.
Thank you, Nancy. Thanks everybody for coming, and we will see you next month when we will learn more about dizziness. See y'all then. Bye.
Okay.